Stay that way the whole class.
I was gonna say, who's not here? You should leave it so when more people come in, they'll be like, what is going on?
Where is Max? Oh my God. All right, well, let's dive in. I'll leave it on for stand-up just in case anyone comes in the room and for a surprise. What did we learn last week? How did homework go over the weekend? Do we have any questions?
We learned about tracing through the messages app and going from front end to back end and back and forth.
How are we feeling on the understanding of that? How are we feeling on the numbering exercise?
So on that. What I learned is CORE stands for Cross-Origin Resource Sharing, and it allows us to relax the security applied to an API. And
it does. And I think that the two most important letters of that are the C and the O, right? So cross-origin. Cross meaning we are going across two different resources. Oh, this avatar doesn't have Italian mode built into it. I talk with my hands and you literally can't see my hands. So we've got the C and the O, right? So cross meaning that it is going from one place to another, and then origin meaning where does it originate? Okay, the request originates on localhost 3000, but we are trying to get to 3001, which is activating that cross part of it, right? And so that is what the cross-origin resource sharing is doing, is the resources that are being shared are on the back end. That's the server, right? That's the messages API. And we are sharing that data to the front end. And so that's what we have to do is turn on the cores at the server level in order to allow that resource to be shared to the front end.
Yeah, and then the other part of that was it said this is done by bypassing an access control allow origin headers which specify which origins can access the API.
So, yeah, and our cores package is actually doing that for us behind the scenes. It's adjusting the headers. So that is exactly what that package is doing. It's just we npm installed it and it would do that. It modifies the headers for us.
And Node.js is body parsing middleware.
Yes. Yeah, so we'll touch on middleware in our next project. So we got kind of two overarching objectives coming up, right? So first one is we are going to use 2 more endpoints just to make sure we understand the flow of our code. We're going to get edit and delete working. Then we are going to move into our database, right? So we're going to pool our SQL code right into our backend. We're going to connect to Postgres. We're going to get our data flowing from the front end to the back end. We're going to see it in Beekeeper, all of that stuff. That will be over the next day or two. From there, we're going to learn about a tool called an Object Relational Mapper, or ORM, which is basically a more JavaScript-focused way to avoid SQL, but still interact with the SQL database. Then finally, from there, we transition into our blog project. So we are going to start a blog from the ground up just for the practices of learning more advanced full stack concepts like authentication. So we're going to build a login screen and we're going to learn about password hashing and we're going to learn about authenticating users and we're going to talk about keeping track of users. And that's really the perfect project to start modeling out our database and making sure we're capturing the relational data that we want and storing it properly. So that's where we're kind of headed next. I don't think we'll be done with the blog project, but at this point in the curriculum, the weeks kind of start blending together and it's like, it's all full stack, right? And so that's where we are headed next. Any questions on homework or things from last week? Anything you would like me to cover before we dive into code?
So the blog project will be, that would be on what, like, on what website? So we would be able to do it on our own website or?
Yeah, your own website. It is less meant to be a production level blog and more to be something that we're just learning those full stack concepts through. But yes, when you are done with me, Nathan Evans comes back in and he's going to go all over full stack deploys. So you'll go through a deploy of either the chat app or the full stack blog. And then you will also take that knowledge and use it for your capstone. So much like React, deploying your capstone is not a requirement, but deploying your capstone is kind of what allows other people to actually go to your website and test it without your computer having to be on. So he's going to be coming back in and doing Git part 2, covering kind of more advanced concepts with branching and merge conflicts. And then he goes into deploying. So you'll actually be able to get your capstone up on the internet, and you'll use either the chat or the blog project. I'm not sure which one he's going to do, to make sure that you can connect to a database and have all of that up and running on the internet.
Cool beans.
See, this avatar isn't accurate. There are times that I actually shut my mouth, or the avatar shuts his mouth. I never shut mine. I never shut up. Nicole, go ahead with your question.
I just so I wouldn't get behind. Are we gonna be opening the terminal, doing that, all the so I need to hurry up and start now.
We're gonna start with the chat app. And I will also post a zip in case anyone is a little far behind. So if you want to kind of use my code as a starting point, you can. But if you want to use your code, that's also completely fine.
So are you gonna put that in the chat, or we just use the same one from before?
I'm gonna put it in the chat right now. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
And we'll go through unzipping it together and all of that stuff. Live stream, day 4. Okay. Zip file should be in there. Going to adjust my monitors here so you can actually see what I'm doing. I guess I'll turn off the dog. Okay. Can't see the receding hairline when the dog is on.
So yeah, it's so sad that we have to lose the dog.
All right. Let me move this over here. Going to share my screen.
Quickly, should it be named front end and back end again? Or
Yes.
Okay.
So we are going to the Finder. Oh, there you are. You're hiding on me. Okay. So Finder, I'm going to desktop, my code, week 16. I'm going to take the day 4 folder if you're using your own code. If you're not using your own code, you can take the day 4 zip and have that downloaded. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to go to my code folder. I'm going to create a new folder for week 17. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to paste my day 4 folder and I'm going to rename it as day 1. In that day 1 folder, I should have a chat front end and a chat back end. I'm going to open both of those in VS Code. So I'm going to take my front end, drag it down to the VS Code icon. I'm going to have that pop up. I always do that on the left side of my screen. My chat backend, I'm going to have pop up. I always do that on the right side of my screen. I am then going to right click on package.json, open an integrated terminal and run an npm I. If you already have a node modules folder, you do not need to rerun the npm I. Even if you do have the node modules folder, running an npm I will not hurt anything. Same goes in package.json. I'm going to run my npm install. We're going to get those started up. I am then going to post live share links for my front end. Okay, for my front end and my back end. Okay, and what we do in our front end, we run npm start, right? And npm start, pretty easy command. It's almost universal across all projects. When I do my npm start, I get my messages with mom, and I think I'm good to go, right? The problem is that in our backend, when we run npm start, it starts, but notice it's starting with node server JS. What did we use last week instead of node server JS?
Init.
A init to get the project started, but what command did we use to actually run the project?
Index.js.
Hold on.
Nodemon, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So
Nodemon.
why do we use Nodemon over regular node?
I think, how you put it, Nodman, runs the backend. I don't know.
It runs the back end.
Changes and updates after changes for certain files.
That's it. Whenever we update our file, we would have to manually stop our node command and restart it. And that's really annoying. So we tell Nodemon, hey, Nodemon, watch for these files. And when these files change, automatically go reboot the server for us. So we're able to do that in this scripts area of package.json. I'm in my backend, and in my package.json, I can really alias this script to run whatever I want. So what I can do is I can say, hey, when the start command is run, go ahead and run npx nodemon server.js for me. So now when I come down here and do my npm start, I get a whole bunch of errors because I forgot a comma on my start line. So Node yelled at me and it said, unexpected string in JSON, position 149, we're panicking. Okay, so I made sure I put this comma up here. I come down here, I do my npm start, and now notice what command got run was my npx nodemon server.js. So if I wanted to modify my script that runs when I do the start, I'm able to do that in my package.json. Because of that, when I do my npm start, it knows, hey, what the way to start this whole server is by using this npx nodemon command. So that is a good thing to do when you're in the habit of setting up a project. Add in your start command, even if you're not doing node, right? Danielle, that zip file is going to go into the week 17 folder. You can put the zip file right in here, and then when you double click on it, it will extract as day 4. Go ahead and rename that as day 1, and then inside the day 1, you'll have your chat front end and back end, and all of that's fine there. So you're just gonna.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep, no problem. So this npm start is a good habit to get in, just to make it universal. So now when anyone downloads your project, they can run npx start, and the package.json will use npm, will go in there and say, oh, the way this server runs is through Nodemon, so we know how to start it. Now you will also notice, if we switch to our front end code and look at our package.json, we also have a script section that is using the start command. Now, this package.json got generated when we did our create React app. Create React app happens to use this library called React scripts, and React scripts is what starts up our project for us. So this is a way, no matter what kind of project it is, in order to make that start command universal, npm start is really just going in package.json and making sure that there is a start command in there and running that. So I'm going to npm start and make sure I've got my API running in the background. I'm going to npm start and make sure in my front end, I have a compiled with warnings here. Let's fix that. It's saying message list.js, use state is defined but never used. So if we open up messages list, what it is saying is I imported use state here, but I'm not using it. So I'm just going to take that import out. I now have a compiled successfully. If I go into my browser, I can refresh. Ooh. I broke my code. Ah, here we go. This should say data.messages. So if you are using a copy of my code, your line 14 should say data.messages, not just data. And if you come over here and refresh, you should have no errors. And if you send a message, it should show up over here. So we're going to pause there and poll and make sure everyone's caught up. But basically, you should have your front end working. You should be able to type in a message, hit send, and have it show up over here, which means your API is also working, because when you send that message, it is going to our backend using the API endpoints and doing all of that good stuff. So if you have your browser open and you can send a message and have it show up and you don't have any errors, you are caught up and you can vote in the poll. Stephanie, go ahead with your question.
One more time, but what's this? Sorry, go ahead. Seth.
I'm lost. I don't, you lost me when you did npm install. I don't know what I have to do for either of them.
Okay, so just open your package.json, and the only thing you need to do is just run npm install enter. And what npm install enter does is it goes to the package.json file and will install anything that's listed as a dependency.
My backend doesn't, that one doesn't look like what your file looks like though.
So this is my front end package.json. My
Yeah.
back end package.json looks like this.
Yeah, mine doesn't look like that.
Did you open package-lock.json or package.json?
Package.json.
Okay, go ahead and share your screen.
Did we, after npm install, did you do like another one?
No. I did npm install on both the front end and the back end. So, Stephanie, the only line you're missing is in that script section. On line 7, we just put a comma at the end there. And then we said enter and quotes start. And then outside the quotes, a colon and another pair of quotes. And we said npx nodemon server.js. So we're just telling npm how to actually start our project. So go ahead and save that. And now if you click down into your terminal, notice that when you did npm start, it assumed that you wanted it to be in Node. It says Node server.js.
Yeah.
So we don't want that, right? We want it to be with nodemon, so it automatically restarts. So if you control C and now run npm start again, you'll see now it started with nodemon because we told it right here how to start. So that's the same command that it just ran there. So you are now almost completely caught up. If you go over to your browser, to your localhost 3000 and just refresh that page. Okay, now if you right click in the white area and go to the console, we can see why it's erroring out. And so it says messages.map is not a function. That's because I had an error in my code when I sent it to you. So go back to your front end code and go to app.js. And all you need to do is on line 14, instead of data, make it data.messages.
Okay. Okay.
Now go back to your browser and refresh. And if you send a message, it should show up. And you're caught up.
Sweet. Thank you.
Oh, question.
Yep.
I have my localhost 3000 came up, but shouldn't I have a localhost 3001?
Not in the browser, because that's your API.
Okay.
So as long as in your localhost 3000, you can send a message, that means your 3001 must be working because the data is coming from the front end to the back end. The back end is storing it and sending all the messages back to the front end.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Only 4 votes in. Do not be shy if you need help getting set up. Want to take the time now. Do not want to rush you because we know we'll fall behind very fast if we don't all have this running.
I just fixed some of that stuff I was watching with her, but in my terminal it says to address issues, blah blah blah. I don't know if it's supposed to be.
Go ahead and share your screen.
Is that fine?
No, you want to do an npm. You didn't do your npm install there. So you have to npm install.
Not typing. Hold on. My computer sometimes does this. All right, well, maybe I get rid of one of these.
I would close both of them and then start over from scratch.
Oh, maybe this is yours.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay, that's mine. Okay, so
Okay, so there you did your npm install because I can see your node modules folder. So
Okay.
there you just need to do an npm run start or an npm start. You don't need the word run. Okay, now in your backend, we added a up here. Let me just.
okay.
We added a command up here because if we do an npm start here, it starts using node. And we don't want it to start using node. We want it to start using nodemon, right? So
Yeah.
what we do is we tell it, hey, when we run the start command, we want you to npx nodemon server.js.
I thought we were never supposed to touch that.
Never supposed to touch package lock.json. This
Oh.
script section in particular, you are allowed to touch.
Okay.
So now if you do your npm start, it will start with nodemon instead, and we can see that right there. Now,
Okay.
when we refresh over here and type in ABC and hit send, it shows up, so you're caught up.
Thank you.
Can I share my screen? So it says I have an error on line 12. I don't see.
Okay. Where does it tell you the error is?
It says 1. Wait.
Read the error itself.
Get messages, uncaught in promise reference, await fetch.
Okay, so when we await, do we await fetch? Or do we await the fetch? Look at line 13.
Should there be a space here?
There should be.
Okay. It's refreshing on its own. Okay. Thank you.
Zach, you're up next.
I'm having problems with my console in my back end.
Okay, go ahead and share your screen.
There we go.
Okay, so try try running the command again. I wonder if you just had you missed a comma. Yeah, try that. Yeah, you
Oh.
just missed a comma and you fixed it, but you didn't rerun the command to tell it the comma's been fixed.
Weird. Okay, thank you.
Danielle, you're up.
All right, so I am having issues in my front end. My back end looks like yours, but I'm not sure what to do with the front end because I couldn't get the live server for the front end to load.
Okay.
So I can't even see what you're doing.
Did anyone
Um,
else have problems with the front end live share?
It just popped up.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure. Sometimes it like doesn't work for everyone, so I just wanted to make sure I didn't have to restart it. Oh, go ahead and share your screen while you're here, and let's see what's going on in your front end.
Okay, hold on one moment. How do I share my screen? Because it's not good. Oh, there it is, the option. I think that's you, not me. Hold on. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on. It won't let me share. Okay, this is, I think, my front end. I'm lost.
That is at least your terminal backend. So you
Okay.
should have two windows open. Hit cancel on that. You don't want to move anything. You want to have two windows open, one with your back end and one with your front end. Right now you opened the entire day one folder. Instead, you want to have two different windows, one for your back end and one for your front end.
Okay, so let me do that, and then I should be able to, now that I can see your live share, I should be able to move on from there. I didn't know they have to be in two separate windows.
Yep. They don't, to be fair, they don't have to be, but the way I organize my
easier.
windows is I keep them separated. I won't say that I think it is easier. What I won't say is that it's the only way to do it. I do know some people prefer to keep their front end and back end in the same window.
Okay, so it's gonna take me a while because like I'm on that old Windows, so I'm not gonna hold you guys up. Thank you.
Good luck.
I
right,
can improvise. I have like one over here, and I got your live shares over here. It's kind of funny.
Okay, any other questions? We've got 8 polls in right now.
Just to check if mine is all, it should be okay. Just want a quick check.
If
Right
you
here.
can, that looks good. Go to your other one and type in a message and hit send. Perfect, and you're caught up.
All right, awesome. Stop sharing.
Any other questions?
At this point, what should our code be doing?
You can send a message in your front end and not have it error out. So as long as your ABC message shows up here or whatever you've typed in, then you are all caught up. Okay, so we're gonna roll forward. So I think Christy had a eureka moment during office hours. She said, I placed an order on the Wendy's app. Does that mean I used an API? And the answer is yes. So what happened when that app got opened, right? Is it said, oh, you want to place an order. In order to place an order, we've got to show you. Do you have a question, Wayne?
Yeah, real quick. You didn't post a live stream yet, right?
The live stream for the code?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the live stream channel. In
Oh, you
Slack.
didn't. Oh, you didn't put it in Zoom. All
Oh,
right.
I can put it in Zoom for you. Front end. Oh, no, don't join my own live share. Leave. Okay, they're now in Zoom.
Thanks.
So when I open that Wendy's app, what happens, right? Well, in order to place an order, we kind of got to know what the menu is. So when that app first opens, it does a use effect and it makes a fetch request to the Wendy's API. And it goes, well, what's the Wendy's menu? And it comes back and it says, all right, here are all the different menu items. Then you go to place an order, right? And that order doesn't exist just in your app. That's got to be told to the store, hey, go start making my food, right? So that API call gets made, but it's a post request because it's containing in the body all of the items that I ordered. Hey, I want a Frosty and I want my fries and whatever else, right? Now, what happens if your app crashes? Well, you force quit the app, you reopen it, but if it were just that front end, that data would be gone. The app shut down, came back, that's not there anymore. But because that API call was made, that data got saved up on Wendy's server. So if the restaurant loses power and it comes back, all of the orders are still saved because that data is saved up on the server, right? So the whole point of this API, and it's kind of hard to understand why are we separating out our code, is that our front end, an instance of our front end code is going to run whenever we load the page or whenever anyone across the internet loads the page. They all have an individual copy. However, our backend, there's only one backend. So even though we may have 100 different people using our front end, they're all connecting to the same backend. And because of that one API server responding to everyone who has that app open, we're able to share information between the people because that one server has all of the data. So I don't know if that hopefully was a light bulb moment for someone else of, hey, why are we separating out this code? Why is this a little different? But important to recognize there that there's a reason why we need a front end and a back end. And that's because our front end database needs to share information that is being collected all on one server, right? And so that's what the back end does. And later tonight, we're going to get into connecting into the database as well. And when we connect into the database, we'll have even more access to store and structure our data. Any questions on that? Okay. So what I would like to do before we dive into the database is I would like to get my edit and delete buttons working. And right now, if I click on edit, it says, what do you want to change the message contact to? I can type something and it just ignores it. Well, what I need to do is I need to tell my, let's see, that is going to be in message list in my sent messages. Here's my edit clicked. So what I need to do is I need to collect.
Max, you're not sharing your screen.
Thank you. What I need to do is in this window.prompt, we're asking what they want to change the new message to. That's the new text that we need to keep track of. So what I'm going to do is now that new text needs to make it to the backend, right? Because all of our messages are stored in our server.js in our messages array, right? So what we need to do is make a new endpoint that is going to receive the message text and actually update that. So in my front end, I'm in messages list.js. I'm around line number 24. What we're going to do is we're going to say const response equals await a fetch to my localhost 3001 / messages. And I'm going to use a method. And what method do we use to update data? We've used get and post what other method would we want to use?
Patch or put.
Either one. Yep, great. So we can use patch or put. Put is more common, but I think patch is more applicable for what we want to do. So I'm going to say patch. And then we need to tell it a couple things. We need to tell it, hey, we are sending in a content type of application JSON, because that content is going to be in our body, and we are going to JSON stringify the data that we would like to send in. And the data that we want to send in is the new message text is going to be coming from our new text. Okay, so I save that. Does anyone see an error before I even switch out of this?
It just popped up randomly on my screen. Was it supposed to do that? Or no?
Internet might be lagging a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so if I go to my browser and I refresh, I immediately get an error that says build failed. And if I scroll down, it says parsing error, unexpected reserved word await. So this is when we go, all right, let's not just go to line 26 and figure out what's wrong. Let's actually read this error. What do you mean it's unexpected and a reserved word? You should always know what await means. Oh, wait.
Stick in front of the function.
We need to tell it, hey, our edit clicked is now using some asynchronous code. And so now that it's running asynchronously, we can wait for this to be done. So now I come over here, I do ABC, I hit send. No problems. I go to my edit and I type in new and I hit OK. And now I get a 404 not found. Why was this not found? Where are we fetching to?
Looks like you didn't restart something.
No, I think I'm just in the wrong terminal.
Oh, okay.
So why are we 404ing here? What do we fetch to here?
The back end.
The back end. So in my back end, we've got a get and we've got a post. I don't see no patch. So we need to go make our patch endpoint. So now we're over here and we're going to say server.patch, and that's still going to go to the message. The message. I just removed an S here. So if you have an S, take it out, because we're patching a singular message. We're not patching all the messages. Okay, now in my patch, I need to get my rec and res like always. And I'm going to res.send, and I'm going to send back all my messages. But now I need to update that message. Where are my messages stored? They're stored in my messages array, right? So if I console log this out, go to my front end, I make an edit and I type in ABC and hit OK. Now I don't have a 404, but if I go back to my back end, you can see it console logged out my array. Now, what I don't actually know is why is that array empty? Let me try that again. ABC edit ABC1. Okay, now when I come back, there we go. Here's my array and it's got ABC in it, right? So whenever our server reboots, we are going to lose our messages, whatever got sent. And so we're going to fix that with the database coming back in a second. So what would I do to modify the message to use the new text that is coming in?
You have to copy the array.
I could pop the array, but I could
Copy.
just go in and modify it directly, right? So I'm going to say messages. Now, what message do we want to update?
The one at that particular index.
Oh, particular index, you're right. How do we get that index? We
One
don't
sec.
actually know. So we got to go back to the front end. And in addition to sending the new message text, we need to send in the index. But now we got another problem. Where's the index? We don't know what the index of this sent message is. So we've got to come up, and while we're looping through the index, we also need to send in the index as a prop. And we can do that because we have access to the index from our messages loop. So now I'm going to come down. I'm going to say, hey, my sent message is going to take an index. And now the backend now is being told what index we are actually editing. So we come over here and we say, hey, messages use the index sent in from the body. Then set the text equal to the rec body new text, new message text. Then console log out our messages again. I'm one step away from taking a break. So I don't want you guys to think I'm running away with this. Okay, so I go back to my browser, I refresh everything, I type in ABC, I send it, I click on edit, I type in 1, 2, 3, I hit OK. Nothing changes. But let's look at our backend, because remember, I console logged out all the messages. That's this whole array right here. Then I made my update, and I updated the text based off of the index coming in from the body and the new message text coming in from the body. How do we know those are in the body? Because this is the body right here. This is what's getting sent from the front end. This is what is telling us not only what the new text is to update, but what message we want to edit. So I come over here, and now look, my text is updated. I can see in my backend that text says 1, 2, 3. So why do I not have 1, 2, 3 showing up here?
You have to handle the return information on the front end.
Bingo. We got our response, but our React is like, great, I don't care. You don't do anything with response. So we need to tie our response into our state so React knows, hey, there's new data here for our messages. So what I'm going to do is I have to get the data from the response JSON. And now I'm going to console log out my data and just see what's coming back. So I go to my browser, I click on edit again, I type in 1, 2, 3. Now I get my messages array, and here's my text 1, 2, 3. But I'm just parsing it. I'm not doing anything with it. What I want to do is update that message. So we know that we can use our set messages method to update all of that because we do that right here. The problem is if I look at my messages list, I don't have access to set messages here. So I've got to use my React knowledge and say, oh, the way that we get access to set messages is we pass it down as a prop. Because we have access to set messages here in our app, we have to give messages access to set messages. So we go into messages list, we get access to set messages. We've got to tell messages list, hey, you're going to get a prop called set messages. And then finally, we have to pass that down one more layer. We have to say set messages is going to get access to a prop called set messages, which is going to come down here and is going to get that set messages, which is going to go one step further. And now when we finally get all of our data, we're going to set our messages to data.messages. And after all of that work, we come over here, we refresh. I type in, I click edit, I type 456 and I hit OK. And I get my 456 message updated. Okay, let me just do a quick run through of that, and then I will launch the poll just in case you got lost along the way. So we had our edit clicked. We modified our function to store the prompt, whatever the new text is, in a variable called new text. Then we realized, hey, our messages, the ultimate source of truth, is over in our backend. It's this array right here. So that's what we need to edit, not just our state, but we want to make it so that if someone else edits a message and we refresh our page, we can see their edit. So what we do is we make a fetch request to our message. Then our fetch request has 3 pieces of information plus the route itself. The route, which is the first piece, the method, which we said we're going to patch. We're patching something up, right? We're editing the message. We've got to tell it, hey, the content that I'm sending you is going to be in JSON. And then for the final thing, we take the body, we've got to stringify it, and we send 2 pieces of information in the body, what we want the new text to be and the index of the message. The problem is that we didn't have access to the index of the message originally. The index was only available up here in messages list. We had the index right here. So what we need to do, because that's in the parent, is pass that data down through the prop and then tell sent message, hey, you're going to get the index as a prop, and go ahead and send that to the server. Pausing there. Does anyone have questions about literally this code and this code alone?
I get that part.
Okay. Okay. So we got all of this going on. Now we've got to do the flip side of this fetch. We've got to tell our backend server, how do you want this patch to work? So we go to the backend, we create a new endpoint here, or a new function. We say, hey, patch is going to be the way that you get access to this. It's going to be at the message, and you always get a rec and a res. We then console logged out our messages to see the array. And then we said, use the index that is sent in from the body in the request to update the text of the message array that we are trying to update. And what do we want to set that whole message indexed text to? To whatever the new message text is from the body right here. Okay, now that we've done that, log it out. Let's make sure the array actually updated, then send back all of the messages. All of these messages are going to include the message that we just edited. Now we go back to our front end, we parse out the JSON, and we run into our final problem. We got access to the messages here, but now we need to set the messages using React State to the new messages. But we didn't have access to set messages as the method, just like we didn't have access to the index right here. So what do we end up doing? We go to our app.js where we do have access to the set messages and pass that down into the messages list as a prop right here. And now that we've passed it into message list, we need to tell it, hey, you're going to get a new prop called set messages. Go ahead and pass that down into your sent message right here. Now that it's passed that down, we need to tell sent message, you're going to get a prop called set message. And when you get that, now you can set the messages to the messages that came back from the API server. Okay, we're going to pause there. I'm going to launch the poll. I'm going to go turn on my lights, and then I will be here to answer questions. Doug, go ahead.
I know you may have gone over this, but you went over a lot of stuff. I might have missed it. In the line 25, new text equals window prompt. So new text gets set to whatever
The user types in the prompt. Yes.
Okay, there's no special word like await because that it just knows, oh, does everything stop until there's a response?
It does.
Okay, thank you.
It is a very old feature that JavaScript built in years and years ago. You normally don't use the window prompt feature because you want a little bit more control of what the user interface looks like. But it is a down and dirty, quick way to get the user to enter something new and be able to capture that response. So it is not a widely used feature, but at the same time, I know it's functional, right? It's an easy way to put in one line of code, have them type something in and get their response. And so that's why we use it.
And so would the alternative be like building a form with input fields and
Dealing with a modal, blacking out the screen, having the user type something else in, having all the CSS for that, handling the OK button in the submission of the form, and then using state to capture the input that they typed in. Yes.
Okay, I like window prompt.
Very functional. My UI designer on the team starts tying the noose every time that I use window.prompt and goes, stop that. I want control of the UI. I want something pretty. But when I need an input quickly, window.prompt is a great go-to in your toolbox.
Thank you.
Any tricks on getting this to soak in?
Am I allowed to say alcohol?
Yeah, I'm grown.
I will say the two most frustrating things that when I was learning React, not full stack, but React in particular, the notion of props was really annoying because you're like, set messages is up here, right? It's in the app. Like, I just want to use it. So when you realize that React is compartmentalizing everything because everything is a component, in order to use those props, you need to pass them from the parent down into the child. Because you are giving app.js has all the data, but what you need to do is tell, hey, messages list, we're going to send you this thing called set messages. You can pass that down to the sent message, and now sent message has access to update the message itself. So that's kind of the prop concept. For me, getting it to sink in is drawing lines on all of this, right? So being in here and then being like, okay, when I make the patch, what's happening is this patch to message is lining up with this patch to message here. This rec.body.index is lining up with this body index. Okay, this new message text is lining up with this new message text. Well, where is new text coming from? Oh, that's coming from my window prompt. So I personally find that drawing all over your code is what helps it sink in for me, because I'm recognizing, hey, this index didn't come from nowhere. It actually came from right here. And so drawing those lines is what helps it make it connect for me. But I also am a visual learner. So sometimes it's just a matter of hearing me explain it over and over again. Sometimes it's finding another person to explain it to you, whether it's another TA or someone on YouTube. And sometimes it's just practice of going through and adding in all of those comments, right? Numbering it out or writing out what that line of code is doing. Zach, you're up, and then Doug, I'll come over to you.
I'm having trouble troubleshooting my code.
Okay, so you've got a 500 internal server error. So where do we know that problem is?
I don't remember.
Break down the error itself. 500 internal server error. What is internal server error trying to tell us where the problem is?
Would that be my backend?
Yep, because our backend is just a backend server. So let's go to your backend code and take a look there. Okay, and now we've got another problem because, yeah, we can look at the code, but the backend actually has an even more detailed message that says cannot set properties of undefined setting text. So what it's saying is it cannot set text. Oh, go back down for me. It can right there. It can't set text because whatever this is undefined. Okay. What's ending up happening here is we console log out your messages, and your messages actually happens to be an empty array. So what happened here is I think your front end and your back end got out of sync, and that the server restarted and lost all of your messages. So let's try this to get them back in sync. Go back to your front end code in the browser and refresh. Okay, now they're all in sync, right? The server rebooted, your front end's rebooted, we're all clear. Yep, go ahead and send a message. Now try and edit it. And there you go.
Thank you.
So that was just an out of sync issue. We are about to solve that in the second half of class, pulling in the database.
Cool. Thank you.
But we're seeing that, right? Of we make a change to our server, the server reboots, and we lose all of our messages. Well, that's dumb. We should fix that. And we will. Doug, you're up.
Okay, I got a couple of questions. One is when you're passing properties down to a component and then you're receiving them in a component, do you have to list them in the same order that they were passed?
No.
Okay. So it doesn't have to be one-on-one. The other question is patch. What does it do specifically, like differently than post? Because technically it's just you use it when you change something.
Correct. So according to Express, it doesn't matter if it's a post, a put, a patch, a delete. It actually doesn't, technically it doesn't have to be a method in the official list of methods. You can technically make your own method names if you wanted to. However, there is a commonly used list of HTTP methods. Let me see if I can easily pull that up. Let's see if W3's got my back. Yep. So these are the most common methods. And then it will give you a breakdown of what each one of them is supposed to be used for. So it does say post can be used to create or update a resource, compared to put, which also says create or update a resource. And then it gives you the breakdown of them. And then same for patch. The patch method is used to apply partial modifications to a resource. So that's why we used patch, because we modified a part of that message, not the whole message itself, which has the timestamp and other information in it. So I like using patch whenever we do a data update. I like using put whenever we create a new message. And then I like post as kind of my generic, like whenever I need to generically send data to the server, I do it in a post. However, according to Express, we could have used the delete method and used our delete method to actually go modify our array, and Express wouldn't have cared. So it is convention to use your post, patch, or put to update data, just like it is convention to use get to retrieve your data, but doesn't really matter.
Okay, thank you. And last question, when you said about drawing on the code, is that something you're doing in Zoom, or does VS Code have some kind of markup marker?
Oh, I wish. No. What you can do is if you go into a Zoom meeting all by yourself and share your screen, what will happen is you get that really annoying toolbar that you all try and get out of the way while you're sharing your screen. There is an option on there for annotate. And so if you click into that, you can start drawing on your code. That's the digital way to do it. I am someone who somewhat ashamedly needs to print things out, or needed to when I was learning how to code. And so for me, the most helpful thing was literally printing out both files and putting them side by side, taping them together and drawing lines across the two pieces of paper. I know I used a whiteboard. I would not be a developer today if I did not have a whiteboard as a junior dev, right? That is where I went through my ideas. Sometimes it's beneficial to literally hand write out all the code on the whiteboard to get practice with the syntax, and then use your whiteboard to draw lines between things as well. So really it is, if it works digitally to draw it, that's great. If it doesn't and you want to print it, that's fine. I was a printer when I had, 100 lines of code that I was trying to trace through. I printed it. When I had 20 lines of code, I would somewhat painstakingly hand write it, because oftentimes when I was hand writing it, I would actually catch whatever the problem was as I was writing the code out. When I typed it, I didn't get any of that. So all different debugging tricks, whatever works for you. I also know people like the iPad and the Apple Pencil. If you've got something with a stylus, you can just screenshot your code and then use the Notes app to draw on top of it. That is also another option.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Christy, you're up. All right, so unexpected reserved word await. In your messages list. So go to your messages list. Now in your await, what do we know about the await keyword? Before we can use it, what do we have to add? No, do not cheat and look at my code. You're muted, by the way. You're still muted. I made it pop up for you. There you go.
I'm so confused. Okay, wait a minute. What am I? Wait, so
we used the await keyword right here. What is our cardinal rule before we can use await? What do we need to tell the computer? What kind of code is await?
my brain is gonna explode. I don't know right at this
I
moment.
can help her out. The function, Christy, the async.
Whenever we use the await keyword, we have to say, hey, this function right here is asynchronous.
Oh my God. Wait, so up here, so I was supposed to just have async here.
Yep. And the error's trying to tell you that, right? Unexpected keyword await. Okay, unexpected or unexpected reserved word or whatever the error actually is. Unexpected reserved word await. It's unexpected because whenever we use await, we have to tell it, hey, this function is asynchronous. So when you see an await keyword, don't be expect for that await keyword to be coming. That's what the error is trying to tell you, is expect await to be coming because we labeled this function as asynchronous.
Okay. I had another question, but I can't think right now. This threw me off.
Don't worry, we've got a break coming in 14 minutes.
So this is clear. So now I'm supposed to be editing, right?
We'll send a message. We need a message sent before we can edit it. Now hover and click edit and type in whatever. Okay, now you've got a 500 internal server error. So we know because it's a 500 that our error is where?
On the front end?
Do we have
No.
an internal server on the front end?
No, on the back end. But
Yep.
message list is on the front end.
But where do we make the request to the back end? In the front end. So that's what this internal server error is trying to tell you. Whenever you see a 500, the details of the error are going to be in the back end. So scroll up here in your terminal until we can see the error in your back end.
Wait, over here?
Yep. Scroll up in your terminal.
Oh, all right, let's see.
Okay, stop. It's saying cannot set properties of undefined reading setting text.
So that's 33.
Yep, so that's right here, messages recbody.text. So what it's doing is it's trying to use the index to set the text. So let's go back to your front end code and look at that request that's getting sent.
From input.
From messages list, because the messages list is where the edit code is. Okay, and now scroll down a little bit. We're sending other way down to the request a little bit more. Okay, we're sending the new message text in. What else are we supposed to be sending in?
Not index.
Index. And you've got access to the index here. You did all the work. So all you need to do is do, click right there and type in the word index. You did all the work to get it down to the component, then you didn't use it in the component. So refresh. Okay, try and edit your message now. Okay, now you've got a problem. Set messages is not a function on 41. So we got to do a reverse trace path up. So set messages here comes in from set messages here. Go up to where your sent message is. Up higher. Yep. Keep going, keep going. Your set messages here is coming in from here. So there's no problem there. Keep going up. Your set messages is a thing all the way up here. So that's not a problem. The last place that it could possibly be is in app.js. And app.js, even though messages list is expecting a prop called set messages, there is no prop set messages.
So I have to put it here. So this, all of this same information?
Yep. And believe it or not, I've got a good feeling that that's going to be your last step.
I thought I was keeping up.
You were close.
Oh, there it is. It changed. It edited it.
Good.
It was run, now it's walk. Oh my God. Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Good work.
Perfect.
Larry, you're up. Nicole, you had your hand raised and lowered it. So I'm hoping, okay, never mind. I'll come to you next, Nicole. Larry, go ahead. So refresh, try. Oh, there we go. So that error in your console is from a Chrome extension, so we can ignore that. Try and edit a message. You're muted, by the way, in case you're saying anything.
All right, unmuted and
Okay, scroll up in the console, or yeah, pull that up. All right, so you've got a 400 error failed to fetch. I'm guessing this is your problem. Oh wait, hold on. Access. Now wait, you've got a cores error. Take me to your backend code.
back. Oh, it's on the right. You see the
Okay, take me to where you do your patch request on your front end.
maybe didn't do it.
That's app.js. Take me to the patch in messages list. I'm guessing this is your problem. Try and patch in all caps.
Oh, yeah.
I think it can be all lower or all caps, but it can't be both. But try that because I don't know what else it would be.
Never mind. I got it. On my back end. Ooh. Okay. Ooh.
Success, Larry?
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Beautiful. No problem. That was a good one because I'm like, I don't know what else it would be if it weren't that. All right. Nicole, we've got 500, so we know the problem is where.
I know I'm missing a semicolon in my list, like a semicolon or a parenthesis or something in my
Nope.
list.
Read your error
Look.
message.
Okay.
What? Well, hold on. We've got two different problems. First of all, what's going on right here?
Parsing error, unexpected word await. Oh, I'm missing async.
You sure are.
Right here. It's right here though. I need two.
No, this closing curly brace is in the wrong spot. It should be down here.
Oh. Where? Because this one I couldn't figure out. So additional one here.
So delete the one on 29 to get started.
Okay.
And take out the semicolon on 42 and save. Okay, now you've got an error that set messages is not defined. So you've got to go through the same steps that Christy just went through. Scroll up. Because this is what we're working on. Error 16 set messages is not defined. And that's on messages list.js. So the 16 set messages here You got to be careful because
Oh,
you
is
called
it
this
because I have
one
an N in
sent
it?
messages.
Oh.
Whoa. Put the capital S back there on 25. Take the N out on 16. And then the other thing is, where does set messages come from? It's supposed to come from app. If it comes from app, it's got to get sent into messages list as a component here. I'm sorry, as a prop there, not as a component. Comma, set messages. Now, if you're telling it to expect set messages to get sent in as a prop, you have to also send it in wherever you define message list. So go to app.js. And now you've got your set messages here. This is the holy grail. That's what we're trying to get to. So we need to pass set messages in to our message list here as a prop right here. Careful where you're typing.
Where am I typing? Hold on.
Oh.
Okay, let's try that again.
No.
That's not-
How do we add another prop? Do we do a comma?
Dot.
Take a step back. Look at the message input. We send 2 props into message input. Click out of that. What are the 2 props that we send message input?
Messages and set messages.
So we need to do the same thing for messages list.
Yes.
Go for it. Okay. Save. Now we don't have any errors. We're just down to a warning. So that takes care of the front end. Go ahead and refresh. Okay. Now try and, yep, that's fine. Okay. Scroll down. That hi message will be there. Now go ahead and edit one of them. Okay, now you've got a 500. So we got to go to the server to figure out why that's 500.
Oh, this is it right here. Do you want me to go up on here right here?
Until you find the error. Too far. Message is not defined. Server 34.
It's
Yep.
supposed to have an S on it.
Yep. Save. Go try it again in the browser.
Oh, let me.
You are caught up.
Okay. Thank you so
No
much.
problem. Any other questions? We've got 9 votes in.
I was having a problem, but I actually worked through it, so I feel really good.
Nice. I'm telling you, you hate getting those error messages, but if you read what the error message is telling you, they're trying to tell you why there's an error. They're trying to help you out. Awesome. Well, I will give everyone an extended break and we'll be back at 7:20. So you've got a whole 21-minute break. No, getting a little crazy over here towards the end of the program. All right. I'll see you guys at 7:20.
All right.
Welcome back. You actually did get a longer break. Totally not because I lost track of time or anything. Okay, how are we feeling? I know we went through a lot. The good news is that we polled pretty high, and so it looks like you guys are getting it. Good news is we're going to move on to a new topic here. We're going to get our database connected into Postgres. But do we have any questions in general before we dive into that? We feeling like we are understanding the concepts, because that's probably the most important part.
I think I get how everything is working. I think I'm just a little frightened to like type it.
Capstone is good for that. Homework is good for that. As is, don't be afraid to like do this whole lesson over again, right? Of tune into the video, put me on 2x, because God knows me at 1x is no fun. And go through it, right? And just try it. Or you don't even need the video, right? You've got the code, just open the code up in another window and type through it. And as you're typing it, make sure you're understanding it and leaving your comments behind. Even though it's the exact same project, sometimes repetition is the best way to learn. Or try the whole, let me pull out my notebook and handwrite this code and see if handwriting the code triggers some understanding, right? That's one of my favorite studies, that they found doodlers, when they doodle, they actively retain more information and have a better memory than people who attend class and don't doodle. And so it drives professors crazy when they see students doodling. They think that, you know, they're not paying any attention. And it turns out that the act of doodling is triggering better memory retention because they've got something physical to do while they're learning. So kind of interesting. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to still chat app. We're still chugging along here, but we've already run into this problem a couple times, right? Of when we are on our server and we refresh and 4, 5, 6 is here, great. All the messages are showing up. But what happens when we go back to our VS Code, stop our server from running by hitting Control-C and start it back up? Well, now when I go back to my front end and refresh it, my 4, 5, 6 is gone. Why is my 4, 5, 6 gone? Because my server rebooted. All of my messages are getting stored in this array here. So a database solves this exact problem, right? The database says, hey, let's store messages in a persistent data store. Persistent meaning when the server reboots, all the data is still there. So we've got our front end, and that's all in React. We've got our back end, that's our API. But now we're adding on another piece up to that back end, and that's going to be our SQL, our database. So I'm going to hit Command Space, and I am going to open up Postgres. I don't want the link to PostgreSQL. I'm going to just open up Postgres here. And it says check automatically. If your server says running, you are good to go. If it does not say running, you can go ahead and hit this start button here. That will get it running. Now we can close out of this. Once it's running, it will run in the background. We don't need to keep this up. So I'm going to hit Command Space again and go into Beekeeper Studio. Beekeeper Studio is going to learn, and we've got our default database saved over here. If we don't, what you're going to want to do is select Postgres as your connection type. Your host is going to be localhost port 5432, and then the username is going to be whatever Postgres is showing you. So your username is going to be whatever shows up here. That's the database that we're going to use to connect into. But if you've got default database saved over here, you don't need to adjust any of your connection details. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to double click on my database, and I should get into here where I've got my teachers folder. if you don't have a teachers folder, that means you probably weren't following along with us. That's okay. We're not going to be using our teachers folder. But I just want to stop here. I know it seems early for a poll, but I want to make sure that everyone can get into Beekeeper Studio and can see their public folder over here on the left.
Can you go back to Beekeeper Studio so I can see like where? Oh, I'm just making sure. I got everything in the connection part.
So the host, the 5432, the username, and the default database is where that should all be set.
See my table. See my table.
Salary name.
Mine keeps saying name is required. What's the connection name at the bottom?
Oh, I put in down here.
Yeah, maybe I put something on the teachers that I don't remember.
So the top part here is all that should really matter. Okay, so we're in our database here. What we are going to do is we want to actually create a new database because the database that we've been playing around in is our default database that says Hack Upstate, right? That's the one that we had the teachers table, but we're doing a new project here. So I want a separate database, a separate set of kind of something to hold all of the tables. So I'm going to run a query. This is very hard. I think you guys will be able to figure out the syntax, but we're just going to try it together. Create database, and then we need to name it. So we're going to call it chat. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit run, and it says query 1 of 1, no results. It says nothing changed. But if I come back over to my Hack Upstate, nothing's changed over here unless I click this refresh button. And if I click this refresh button now, I can see the chat database that I just created. So I'm going to go into my chat database. I'm going to ignore everything in this information schema. And now I need to create a new table for my messages. So let's see if we can do this without having to look up the syntax. Create table messages. And that is going to have an, nope, I can't do it without looking it up.
What if we don't see chat?
Did you click the little refresh button?
Yes.
Okay. So when you're connected to your Hack Upstate database, you have to make sure that you run create database.
Chat. It says query 1 no results, 0 rows affected. See select the select box.
Okay. So when you definitely hit the refresh button up here.
Yes.
And
And
in
mine
this
doesn't
drop down, you
say-
don't see it.
Wait a minute. No.
Go ahead and share screen.
Right here, so.
Okay.
Oh, of course, of course, of course.
Christy, please remember to bring whatever you're on to share with the rest of the class.
It's ridiculous. Okay.
Okay. So we've got our, did that happen for anyone else? Is anyone else stuck and not able to get into the chat app or the chat database? Okay. So I'm going to do just a search for create table SQL because of course I don't remember this off the top of my head. Okay. So it's In my chat database, I'm going to do create table. The table name is going to be messages. And then we need to think through, what do our messages store? And so we can start with something basic, right? We can say that is going to be an ID and it's serial. Serial is a special data type in Postgres that will increment that ID for us. And I think we can even put on our primary key there to say, hey, this is what is going to be unique in the table. Okay, what else do we need to store in our messages? Well, we don't actually have to reinvent the wheel here. We know what we're storing in our messages, because if we look at when we push in a new message, we're already storing some data there. So this is telling us exactly what we need in our table. So if I go back to Beekeeper, I'm going to say, oh, we need the message text. And that is going to be, I'm going to call it content. And that is going to be the type of text. Okay. We also need the timestamp, and that is going to be a date time. I'm guessing on the data formats here. I'm sure it's going to yell at me. And then finally, we need received. Yes, I spelled it right. And that is going to be a Boolean. So I'm going to run this and I get date time does not exist. Let's see. Do they call this timestamp? It does. Okay. So I ran that, and now look over here in my entities, I've got a messages table. So if I click on the messages here and I look up at the top, I can see my table structure. I can see my ID, my content, my timestamp, and my received, and all the data types that are associated with it. Okay, that's cool, but let's take it a step further. What if I insert into messages the values? And here I'm going to specify, I'm going to insert to text and timestamp and received. And what values am I going to insert? I'm going to insert hello world. And my timestamp, I think we can say now. And then the received is going to be false. We're going to say I sent that one. So remember in Beekeeper Studio, if you click the run button here, it's going to try and create this table again, and it's just going to error out. It's going to say the relation messages already exist. Basically, the table already exists. So to get this one to run, I'm going to just highlight this one, and I'm going to hit run selection. Oh, and I named this wrong. This should say content. Okay, let's try that. Column hello world does not exist. Okay, is it single quotes? Aha, okay. No results, but one row affected. So if we go back to our messages table here and hit the little refresh button at the bottom, you can see my things pop in there. And this is the last thing we'll do, and then we'll pull. I can do a select star from messages and get, if I run just that, my content back out.
Max, was it saying no results prior to the select because we weren't doing a query? We were just inserting update. What is it? Create and updating.
Correct. Whenever we insert or update, it does not return the data that we updated. It only returns the results of the query if we have a select in it.
Thank you.
So let me start a poll and see. We should be at the point where if you double click on the messages table, make sure you hit the refresh button down here. You should see one row in here with our columns up at the top.
Before you put that poll up, can you just go back to the code, let it sit though?
There you go.
Thanks.
Anyone
Is
got
it because-
stuck on a step, let me know.
Me. So I'm highlighting insert all the way down to messages and press and run.
Yes, if you insert, it should do that. And then if you do the select, it should actually show you what data is in the
Okay.
table.
Now run. Okay. Oh, it says relation messages does not exist. That's supposed to happen or no?
No, relation messages does not exist means that you didn't get your table created up here.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't exist or already exists.
Does not exist. So should I run
Okay.
it by itself?
So you
then
need to
run
you need to run the create tables command.
Okay. Now that one went through and I'm doing that one. Syntax error at the end of input line.
Okay, so make sure you've got a semicolon here and then make sure that your parentheses are lining up. And if that, and make sure you've got a comma after every line, except this last one.
Yeah. Content types, timestamp, received. I think I spelled values wrong. Oh no, I didn't. Maybe I got a space.
You want to share screen? Spaces shouldn't matter.
Okay.
I'm going to post this in the live stream channel too, in case it's easier to.
I can't see your code anymore, so I don't know what to reference. But this is what's messing up right here. Am I not supposed to have a semicolon in there? False? That's not how you spell false, right? I don't
Oh,
know.
that could have been it. Your messages table exists, so try running the insert again.
Okay.
Is that a semicolon after messages?
Yes.
Here. Okay, that worked.
Okay.
Now I run this one too now.
Yep. And you're caught up.
Thank you.
There was. Where did the code go?
Code is in live stream, but let me share my screen again. Be right back.
Hmm.
I have a quick question.
He said
How
he'll be
come?
back.
Oh, are you sharing your screen?
He said he'd be right back.
Oh, well,
I'm back.
maybe somebody else.
Do you have a question?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you see next to your query number 1 with the circle. How do you have those, like the messages and the other messages? Like, do I just double click on messages?
Yep.
Oh, okay, they both pop up?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have.
You don't need multiple ones of them, but yeah.
Mine is saying syntax error.
Go ahead, share screen.
I don't
Missing
see
a
the-
closing parenthesis right where it's telling you it's missing.
Line 1131.
Woohoo! I got it done. I got it done. Woohoo. I spelled receive wrong and I had to alter it and change the.
Fuck I before ye. You're missing a closing parenthesis right where it's telling you. Where is the red line?
Right here.
Okay.
So I gotta have it here.
Yep.
Jeez
There you go.
Louise. Okay.
Hmm. Maybe pizza.
All right, 6 votes in. I'm gonna leave this up 1 more minute in hopes of getting another vote or 2, and then we will keep going.
Oh, I forgot to. Does anything happen much if you change false to true?
Nope.
No.
Probably not a bad idea to actually do my first incoming message and set this to true. And then we're gonna highlight both of these and insert. And now you'll see we've got a second row for my first incoming message. And we set it to true. Okay, think we're gonna move forward here unless anyone has questions. All right, so far we've had that gap, right? Of, all right, we get Beekeeper Studio and like we see the data happening in our database. And we know we've got our front end and we've got data flowing between the front end and the back end. Now we need to get the data flowing between our API server in the back end and the database, which is also in the back end. So what we're going to do in order to do that is we're going to install another NPM package. So in my backend terminal, I'm going to hit Control C because whenever we install a new NPM package, we've got to stop the server. Then we are going to NPM install PG for Postgres. That's going to go through and install. And then before we forget, we're going to NPM start again to get our server running. Now that we've installed Postgres, I'm going to scroll up to the top part where we did all of our server setup. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, const client. This client is a client connecting to the database. And the client is going to be required in from Postgres. We then need to say, hey, the database itself is going to use a new client coming in from the Postgres package on NPM, and we need to pass it some information. We need to pass it the username. The username is going to be the same username in Beekeeper Studio. So what that will probably be is on mine, my username is hack upstate. So whatever your username is, that's going to come right in from here. It won't be chat. Chat is the name of the database. The name of the username is going to be whatever shows up that's closest to your name in Postgres. So I'm going to put my username in here as hack upstate. Yours is obviously going to be different, or maybe not. And the database that we're connecting to is going to be the chat database. Then the last thing we're going to do is we are going to DB connect. And believe it or not, if this errors out here, Larry, I'm coming to your question in 1 second, we won't know it because we just connected to the database, but we don't have any proof that we're getting data to and from it. We just connected it. We would like to pull some information back from the database. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a DB query, and we're going to select now. Selecting now is just going to tell the database whatever time you think it is, go ahead and respond to that. Zach, no, you don't have to respond. You don't have to reboot the front end server. The PG package we're only installing on the back end. So when we select now we've got to get the results of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to get, if there is an error, it's going to come in here. If there isn't an error, it's going to be in the results. So then we console log out the results. And now we've got this giant thing in the console. But if you look, it says command select. Okay, we knew that. Oh, there's only one row that's coming back. What is in that row? Ooh, look at that. That is a timestamp. So now we've not only installed the PG package so that our Node Express server can connect to Postgres, we got the client from that and used this database client to connect to the chat database using our username. Then we told the database, hey, using the details here, go ahead and connect. And then finally, go run a query. What query do we want to run? We want to select now. Then when that comes back with the results, go ahead and console log them out. Larry, go ahead with your question.
My npm start didn't work on the back end.
Okay. Go ahead and share your screen. So open your package.json. We'll stop here and poll, by the way. Okay, so what we did is we added a test to our scripts. So what we did is right here, put a comma. And then enter and do start in quotes.
Oh, let's pull that away. Enter. Hold on, let's pose in the way. I don't think that's a comma, is it?
It is.
Oh, all right, start.
In quotes.
Computer's acting slow.
And then outside of that, you're going to do a colon. And then quotes, and then npx nodemon server.js.
Mine was index. All right.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. Thanks, Max.
Well, make sure it works before you thank me.
I have faith in you. Let's see, npm start. All right. Yep.
Beautiful.
So I don't have to do that. No npx, no thing. All right.
Yep.
Let me stop sharing.
Nicole, you're up.
Hey, Max. I'm trying to think. I'm sorry. I missed that last one. I just finished putting the code in, but it was an npm.
Oh,
Extra, I missed it.
if you already did that in package.json, we did that earlier in class. Larry just
There was
missed
a
that stuff.
Postgres one.
Oh,
There was a Postgres one.
npm install pg.
Okay, and I'm putting that under
Stop
my
your
server
terminal.
dodgers.
Stop. No. Stop your terminal. Control C to stop the server, and then run unpm
Control C.
install pg.
Okay, I'm gonna need your help.
Go ahead and share your screen.
Oh, I was trying it on yours, so sorry about that, but here I am now.
Okay,
Control
Control
C.
C. Try again.
And how do you know if it worked? Oh. Okay, there you go.
npm install pg. Enter. Okay, now go to your
Anything else?
npm
set?
start.
Oh.
npm start.
npm start.
Enter.
Enter.
Okay, and now
Okay.
because all those results came back, that means you're caught up.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Zach, you're up.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, 40.
Was working and now it's saying this.
Control C out of your server and restart it. Okay, so you're good to go.
Okay, thank you.
You mind checking mine?
Yep, go for it.
Something ain't right with this. Not seeing the
So-
select,
Oh,
not seeing this.
You are missing the db.connect line. Line 9 on mine goes between 10 and 11 on yours.
Holy crap. Hey,
There you go.
thank you, sir.
Not a problem. 5 votes in. Give everyone just one more minute to try and catch up. If you've not voted in the poll, please do so. You know the drill. If you're stuck or need help, let me know. Seven, going for 8 votes in the poll. All right, we are going to roll forward. So we see our rows has our result, right? It has our timestamp. Wouldn't it be cool if when we got the message?
Share your screen, please.
Yep, I was just about to tell him.
When we've got our select going on, and our select is showing us our rows, our result, right? So wouldn't it be cool if when we got our messages, instead of getting the messages from this array up at the top that we know is clearing every time the server reboots, wouldn't it be cool if we could get our messages right out from the table? So what we're going to do right out from our database, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say const SQL result is equal to, and we're going to run into a problem because our database queries run asynchronously. So what I'm going to do is make this whole function async. And then I'm going to say await the results of a database query. And what do I want to do? I want to select everything from my messages table. Then I'm going to console log my SQL result. Now I come down here and I know my database is connecting. I don't need this time thing going on again. So I'm going to go through 10 through 12 and comment those out. Now I come down here and my SQL result does not show in my console. Why not? Nicole, I'm just using backticks because we're going to be using a template literal down the road to insert data in. In this situation, though, you could use single quotes or double quotes because this is all JavaScript. The code inside of it is SQL, but the what we're actually passing into that function is just a string. So that's why I'm using backticks.
Don't you gotta
Thank you.
set the front end?
Yeah, exactly. This is still an endpoint, right? This code only runs when the messages are requested in the front end. So I'm going to go back to my front end and I refresh. Nothing looks like it's done anything. But if I go to my VS Code, Now, all of a sudden, look, my terminal has a lot of stuff in it. And one of the things is the rows, and look at our rows. All of our data is right in there. So what I want to do is I'm going to send my messages back to my front end from my SQL result rows. Okay, go back to my front end, and now I refresh, and I get empty message bubbles. But kind of cool, my timestamps lining up, and I've got my sent message and my received message. What's going on? Well, if we look at our front end code, what we did is we said, hey, the message text is what contains the message that actually got sent. But if you look at our SQL data model, we aren't using text, we're using something called content instead. So we need to update our front end because our data model changed a little bit. So here, instead of message.text, I'm going to do message.content. And then up here, I'm going to do instead of sending my message.text in on the sent message, instead I'm going to send message.content.
Isn't there a messages text? Does that matter or no?
There, I don't know where you're looking, Nicole.
Right there, the classmate. Is it just the classmate message text? And inside that little curly phrase, it says text.
This should say
Up,
message.content.
Oh, I
Now.
was talking about the one above that.
This one's okay to
down.
leave as text.
Okay, yeah, never mind.
So now if we come over here, we should see our messages from the database. Let's go ahead and repoll there. Stephanie, go ahead with your question.
My terminal crashed and it's giving me like an error.
Okay, go ahead and share your screen. Okay, so we have to read our errors and try and understand what they're trying to tell us. Syntax error, await is only valid in async functions. So whenever we use await, what do we need to do?
Async, but
Before your rec. So you put the async in front of whatever. Yep, there you go. And now if you scroll down to the bottom of your terminal, you're back up and running.
oh, nice. All right, cool. Thank you.
No problem. Nicole, go ahead.
Quickly, the import use state. Can I get rid of that?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Max, to her question, when do we know to get rid of that import use state? Like, I know that happened way earlier on, but like, when do we determine that we no longer need it?
because we're not referencing it anywhere else in the file.
All right, thank you.
So initially we actually were using state. I forget what we were keeping track of, but we realized, I know what it was. We were keeping track of all of the messages in the message list, right? So we had our use state right in this file. And then we realized, oh, the problem is message input also needs to be able to update the messages. So what we did is we took this entire use state from here and moved it.
I don't see your screen. I don't see your screen, sorry.
The problem was messages list was here, right? And we had, this is where we were keeping track of all the messages. But we ran into the problem of, hey, when we send a message, that new message, when we send it, needs to be able to update all of the messages, right? Update the list of all the messages. So what we did is we took our state out of messages list and moved it up to app.js. But then in messages list, that import use state was left over here. It was like, all right, you're importing use state, but you're not using state anywhere in this file. And that's why we can get rid of it, is because we moved when we used it from messages list to app.js. Christy, go ahead.
So I have an error. It says app.js12 and I can't figure out.
Share your screen.
That where we, I thought it was might have been where we, here's the message.
Okay, so scroll up to the top. You got a connection refused. A connection refused means your backend is not responding to connections. So go to your backend server. And it's crashing. It's saying await is only valid in async functions.
I gotta do control C.
No. It's telling you exactly why it's crashing. Saying syntax error, await is only valid in async functions.
Did we fix that?
We fixed it on the front end, and then you used await again without learning your lesson.
So here,
Mm-hmm.
no, right here?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gosh.
So we can't, every time we get an error, we can't go, Max, I've got an error. We've got to read the error and understand where the error is going to be. Error connection refused. Well, where's the only time we use a connection? We connect to the backend. So now we got to go to our backend code. Look in the backend terminal. Does the backend terminal have an error? If it does, we've got to go fix that. Oh, the error is telling me you used the wait without an async. Go fix that. So we got to break down and keep an eye not only on our front end terminals, or consoles, but also our back end terminals or consoles.
I know I was stuck over here where it was saying app.js. I wasn't even looking to the left. I was looking just at that. So my brain.
Okay. Only a couple votes in on the poll. Is there anything that I can recover? Starting my.
I had a question. How come we just put that stuff in and we commented it out? Why did we comment it out again?
Up here?
Yeah.
Just because we didn't want it cluttering the database, right? We put that in to test it to make sure our
Oh,
connection to the database was working. But once we got it
Okay.
working, I just commented it out because if it stopped working, then this would stop working as well.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Max, could you go over again when you changed, you made the messages text content in the database?
Yep.
Go over how that makes its way from the database to the front end and where and why we change it to content?
Yeah, I called it content because I was worried that text was going to confuse the database because text is also a data type. And so in the database, when I set up my data model, I chose not to call this column text. I called this column content. But now that trickles down all the way through our stack to the front end. So when we do our query and we look at our query result, now you see in our rows, instead of having message text, we have message content instead. Well, now that SQL result is getting sent right to the front end in the response to the request. So now we go back to our front end and we look in our app.js, and here are our data.messages. Okay, well, that data.messages, if I console log this out here.
Could you go back to the so the get messages, the call to the database, but is anything making that call yet? How is that?
The call is made when the page is refreshed on the front end.
Oh, yes, so it is. Okay, I'm with you so far then.
Okay, so if I console log that out, if I refresh the page, you see it pops in here. If we open that, now you can see all of the data coming from the database, including the content instead of the text. So what we do is, because we set that into state, wherever we use that state, we need to now respect that, right? We now need to say, hey, don't look at text, look at something called content instead. So if we go into our messages list, there are two places we reference that. One is right here in a prop called text. And so we say instead of message.text, we now say message.content. The other place we need to update it is right here. This message gets passed down to received message. And then in there, we reference the content instead of the text.
Okay.
And that should be everything.
Thank you. That should help me hunt it down on my own.
Cool. Zach, go ahead.
Broke my code. I don't know why.
Raise your hand,
Um,
Green, get in line.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to fix this on my own, but
Go ahead, share screen.
when I was following along, I copied like the wrong, I edited the wrong like section of code. So then I just copy pasted yours in. I think I might have made another mistake somehow when I did that. So it's
Refresh the whole page for me. Scroll up. Okay, 56 to string. I think that's going to be on the timestamp. Yeah, so it doesn't like the timestamp. Go to your app.js for me. Fetch messages, JSON set. Okay, nothing looks wrong there. Go to your backend. Scroll up a little bit to your get. Get
yeah, this is what I copy
messages,
pasted.
SQL result. None of that looks wrong. Let me just here. Got to explore on this one. So I'm curious to see. Come on. Ooh. There we go. So I'm curious to see now what we do is we break down row by row and figure out what's going on. So here's the problem. Our rows right here, instead of saving it in something called timestamp, your column is called date time. So that means that when we get to our front end code, wherever we reference, am I going in the wrong direction? Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Wherever we reference timestamp, instead of calling it timestamp up here, we need to call it date time. And this is only in your code just because the column name is different.
That's your window. You have to go over one more.
Okay, so in messages list, we're gonna do sent message. Oh, you do have it in as date time. So is it timestamp to string date time to string? But the problem was on 56. Timestamp is coming in from timestamp and sent message. It's getting the message date time. Okay, so let's just do this. Console log out our message and take a look at what's that doing. Oh, why is it not even hitting? Okay, we're gonna do this instead. Hey, 56, you're being a pain in my butt. You don't show up anymore. Okay, so now we've got a really weird problem because message list 56 is, 56, not 57. Well, what? Sent message 56, but we commented that out. So something is really out of sync here because like that line doesn't even exist and it's still airing out on it. So something has to be really funky here. If I stop this server and
Yeah.
refresh it, it still is loading that thing. So you must have a localhost 3000 running somewhere else. Is that possible?
It
It might
wouldn't
be
the other app.
this. Let me close that. But see, the weird thing is when I start it here, it should detect the 3000 is already taken and put me on another one, and it's not. Okay, now I think you're in, in decent shape. So I just forced it onto another port. And now we're getting the 2-string again, but at least everything's logging out. Okay, so 57 2-string because 57 timestamp. And your thing is called timestamp, but it's already a string. Okay, hello world. So now you're caught up. So two things that happened there. One, for whatever reason, you were in port hell and the servers were conflicting. So the command that I did there is if you do port equals and then whatever port you want it to start on, that like will override it. Then the other issue was that your data already had the timestamp coming in as a string. That could have been how like an accidental column creation. And so what I just did is I took out the 2-string and that got it working.
Okay.
That was a weird one.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep. Stephanie, you're up.
Okay. Let's see. On your screen, I noticed you had my first incoming message and mine isn't showing that.
Okay.
I was curious where you were getting that from.
Yep. All you need to do is go back to Beekeeper and insert that message. So what I did is I modified that script right there. Instead of saying hello world, I made it say my incoming message. And then the false I turned to true. And then highlight that. Yep. And run selection. And then go back to your front end and refresh. Boom.
Okay.
Full stack baby.
Thank you.
No problem.
Can you go back to your code so I can see that really quick?
Doug, go ahead. This
Uh,
code, Nicole, or different codes?
I was talking about the Beekeeper Studio.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can leave that up. Okay, go ahead, Doug. I'm sorry.
Well, I wanted to share my screen because I'm trying to, I'm trying to set up make sure that my text is replaced with where it needs to be with the new, I called it message text
Okay.
in the database. I'm getting an
Yeah, I got it.
error. Okay, so so right here, I'm getting uncaught error messages map is not a function. That's line 13 of messages list. So right here, I guess it doesn't think that messages is an array.
Correct. So go back to your app.js.
Coming from here, which is coming from,
Okay, so do me a favor and console log out your data on 16, not just data.messages, but all of data. So on 16, take out dot messages.
on 16. So
Yep, you can comment that back in. Just take out the dot messages. I want to see the whole data object.
oh, okay.
So save that and then hop over to your front end console. And okay, so you've got your messages, but now look at what's in there. So pop that open. You've got command and fields and all of that stuff. But really all we care about is the rows. So the problem isn't in your front end, it's that you're sending too much back in your back end. So when you get your get, it should be SQL result dot rows on 27.
Okay.
And if you save that, I think you're going to find your front end wants to play nice.
Unless I haven't tracked down all of the replacements.
So you did in the sent messages, you just have to do it in the received message now.
Okay. Thank you. And dot rows, that's just part of the language.
Result. Yep. What the
That's not
PG
something that we-
package returns more information than just the rows of the query itself. It returns like the number of rows and the type of the query and stuff like that. So the dot rows is actually getting into the meat and potatoes of the result.
Okay, so dot rows is a property of any table that's returned?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any table that is returned, yes. When you run an insert command, it may not have a dot rows because we know inserting doesn't return the data, right? But for select command, dot rows should always be a key of that select query.
Okay, thank you.
Zach, you're up.
I'm having this problem where it's not showing up.
Okay, so go to your code. And we know the right thing is, I'm sorry, go to your front end code. The right thing is to call it text, and you're calling it text in the message dot, it shouldn't be message dot text, it should be message dot content, right? And it's not showing up in the received message. So we know the problem must be right there.
Okay. Sweet. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, it's important to identify, hey, it's working in my sent message, but not my received message. So let me ignore all of the sent stuff and only look in the received. Any final questions? Do we feel like more of a full stack developer now that we've got the database flowing through our back end?
Is this it? Like, cause then I'm at relief, but if it isn't, then I'm like, I don't know.
Well, I thought we would just go for another hour tonight just to, power hour it and see how the 4th hour of class would go.
No,
No, I
please.
mean like as in like any more things like concepts or languages to learn to go into?
No more languages, no more syntax. We do have a couple more concepts with authentication and getting our passwords working. We do have a couple more concepts for deploying our full stack apps and, you know, understanding how to get them up on the internet. But this is pretty much it. We've tied the whole stack together. Tomorrow, we will dive into making our insert statements work so that when we send a new message, that actually shows up and does the right thing. And then we get into SQLize, which is how do we get our database working without having to write any SQL? But we are going to do 2 new endpoints or modify our 2 endpoints to make sure SQL is working tomorrow. Then we're going to talk about SQLize. Then we're going to get into our blog project.
When you say authentication, is that with the API?
That will be with the API, and that will be how do we get a username and password field to show up, and how do we actually store their password and validate it to make sure that their password is stored in a secure way that we can then validate and make sure that when they do type in their password again to log in, that they are who they say they are.
Is that on the messaging or on the blog?
Blog.
Oh, so when they come to the blog, they have to log in and then come in.
Well, we're going to set it up so they don't need to log in to read the blog, but they need to log in to make a new blog post or to make a comment.
Okay.
Nicole, go ahead.
I have a question.
Can I share and ask a question too?
It's just a random question. So say I wanted to push this chat up to my portfolio.
Yep.
Like, will it still run the same?
No, because you haven't learned how to deploy a backend server yet. So it won't run, and you guys don't know how to deploy to the backend quite yet. That's coming in week 21.
Okay, now I understand.
That is coming in. Oh, I was right. Week 21. August 15th, Nathan is coming back and he'll show you guys how to deploy all of this.
Can I share and ask a
Go ahead,
question?
Wayne.
Okay. So here's the question. Right now everything's changed up. So if I should send a message, it won't send, right?
Right. We haven't gotten to that.
Okay, so I just want to make sure. Okay.
I mean, we can if you want. We can keep going through past 8:30.
Yeah, we can keep going. I'm just
At what
kidding.
point does the deliriousness kick in?
I think I know how to get that back to sending message, but figure you're gonna do something else with it, so I'll wait.
No, we're gonna get our sending message and our editing messages, plus probably our delete message working tomorrow before we get into SQLize.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you. Okay.
All right. That's all I got. I will stick around for a couple minutes in case anyone has questions. Otherwise, get out of here. I will see you all tomorrow.
All right, everybody.
Night, everyone.
Thank you.
I might have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Never mind, it's fine. My dog's crying.
All right. See you all. Have a great night.
All right.